Arsenal go top of the English Premier League. A good result for them tonight. City 4-1 victors over Aston Villa, with Phil Foden dropping an absolute masterclass of a performance tonight from that young man, with a scintillating hat-trick, especially the final 2 goals. They were absolutely out of this world. Loads to unpack tonight as the title race continues to heat up. And who said the title race was going to be decided last weekend in the City-Arsenal game? You look at that league table now. Arsenal on top on 68 points. Liverpool second on 67. City third on 67. Goal difference, by the way, caught up a little bit. Depends on Liverpool's result tomorrow night. To 2 between those 2 clubs. This title race is well and truly alive. And I'm excited about it. I'm buzzing about it. I cannot wait to call the games. I cannot wait to react to these games. It's going to be I think in the social media era of football, this is without a shadow of a doubt going to be the very best title race that we have had, simply because there's 3 teams involved in it. And I think it gives it such a different dynamic. There's so many predictions going on at the moment, with rivals stating that Arsenal are going to collapse in April. Can Liverpool par the course? Is there something wrong with this Man City team? I think there is some holes in this City team, but there are still people saying it isn't a peak City team, which I absolutely disagree with. And we're going to unpack that all tonight on the Football Terrace, on the Full Fan Highlight Show. I want to get your views in. I want to get your opinions in. I do hate how they spread the games out, so they're 45 minutes apart, so we have to wait so long to go live. It's very, very annoying indeed. But I'm going to start with Arsenal tonight as their game was first. And 2 words really sprung to mind for me tonight when it came to Arsenal. The first one was grown. And when I think of the word grown, I remember I hadn't seen one of my cousins for a few years, and he'd gone from being a 16-year-old tearaway to like a 19-year-old man who had really grown, who had really matured, who had really become... He was always a nice person, but he'd just become that maturer version of himself, someone that I'd sit in the pub with and have a drink with, someone I would bring out with my friends, someone I wanted to socialize with. He just become, where I'm from, we'd call that someone who is grown. And that's what Arsenal were tonight. This was a grown-up, professional, title-winning, worthy performance. And what I mean by that is this: that they dominated the first half by an absolute country mile. The ball, the play. There's a few breakaway counters from Luton. They've been very good at that all year. But Arsenal dominated. They did this, by the way, after making 5 changes to their first team. Smith Rowe coming in, Nelson as an example, Partey. Stat I found out tonight, Reiss Nelson's first Premier League start in 4 years. Zinchenko back into the team as well. Trossard came in. So there was a few players that have been regulars, and there was a few individuals that barely start. Partey because of injury, and then, of course, Smith Rowe and Nelson. And that's an ever so slight risk, but it has to happen with the abundance of games that Arsenal got to play. But what I thought Arsenal did so impeccably well tonight is they got themselves 2 goals ahead. Very good performance from Kai Havertz, Odegaard. I'm going to talk about him a little bit more again, but absolutely majestic on the ball tonight. Took his goal well. The second one is scored. I think it actually went down as an own goal, but created really by Nelson and Smith Rowe, respectively, by their runs and their play. They went 2-0 up. And then what Arsenal did is they just maintained the game. They didn't keep playing in 3rd or 4th or 5th gear. They wasted no energy and they reserved themselves. Now, from a neutral's point of view, watching that second half, it was hard. I mean, I more was watching City by then. It was a very hard watch because they were not really trying to score more goals. Luton weren't going to do anything. The game was already over. And it ended up being a very simplistic win for Arsenal. But it was a mature and a grown performance. A team that would have reserved so much energy. They've got a big game away from home on Saturday against a side that they've had some real poor luck against over recent years, especially away from home in Brighton. A team that doesn't win a lot at the moment, but gets a lot of draws. And a draw right now for Arsenal, Liverpool, City, unless it's against one another, is almost catastrophic because you're losing those 2 points and the other two are winning so many games. It was very much the consummate training game. And for me, that's just shown how far Arsenal have come. I have seen Liverpool and City over the past 7 to 8 years do this on a regular basis. They get 2 or 3 goals ahead. They might score again late on, but they just control the game. It becomes an absolute non-starter, unwatchable for a rival fan. And I'm sure there were gooners, and I'm going to look at one who's backstage now in Sard, that in that second half probably found themselves drifting towards the City game, checking their phone, maybe went downstairs to make some food. We've all been there. In the ground, listen, there was a kind of game where some people might have even gone back inside and got a pint and watched on the screens inside. I'm sure Arsenal have got those screens inside like Old Trafford had when I used to go there, because it was just done. And I think it shows such a maturity in this Arsenal side. And it's really interesting because this is the month that everybody predicts them to fall apart. And I want to challenge rivals, and I want to challenge Arsenal fans watching to tell me, what does it mean by Arsenal falling apart at this stage? Define that. And don't just say not winning the title. That is too broad. You need to define it by specifying. You need to specify how far off not winning the title that drop-off looks like, because I want to hold people to account on this. I want to understand what it means, because if they stay at this level and miss out by 1 point at the end of the season, it's not really a drop-off. We need to define it. But at this moment, Arsenal are not showing any signs whatsoever of doing that. On to tonight's game. I've mentioned Kai Havertz already. I thought he was really good tonight. I thought he led the line well when Arsenal were trying to score and when they were playing with a bit more zip in their play. I thought he was excellent leading that line. The work he did for the opening goal, I thought was majestic from him. Another kind of GA to add to the list for him. And, I always wonder how Chelsea fans feel. I know they didn't necessarily like him, but he's now currently sits top of the English Premier League with one of your local rivals. It's just such an interesting dynamic. But I thought he was really, really good indeed. Defensively, I thought it was another really strong performance from the back line, especially Gabriel. I kind of feel like he's a young sung hero in the defensive line this season. Saliba gets a lot of the plaudits, but I thought he was excellent as well. I thought Smith Rowe, considering it was his first start in such a long time, acquitted himself very, very well. But the standout performer for me, again, was Martin Odegaard. And I paid homage to Lee Gunner a few weeks ago, and I'm going to do the same thing again, because he was the person that put this out into the football universe first for me. You might have heard someone else say it, but I don't like to take things from other people. The big games are not always Arsenal City, Arsenal Liverpool, Arsenal Man United. Sometimes big games are must-win matches, and you've just got that point away from home at City, which looks an even better result now, and you have to turn up. You've got 4 or 5 of your main first-team players rotated, Saka not even on the bench. They needed that captain's performance from him today, and he gave it. He was absolutely brilliant. He scored another very, very important goal. And there's one of those things in our straight facts debates that Lee Gunner really changed my mind on. So I always like to obviously pay homage to him on that in relation to the way Odegaard stepped up in another big game, because it was a big and an important game, especially with City winning 4-1. It's very likely the Sheffield United are going to win tomorrow. And Arsenal needed to get the job done. And their captain, their leader, and, he's just such a star player. His touch, the way he pirouettes on the ball, his striking ability. He was absolutely majestic tonight. He really, really was. And another little milestone for Arsenal in this victory is they're the first team from the traditional top 6. In the current top 6, I believe the commentator said, to beat Luton by more than the 1-goal margin this season. So, and by the way, they probably could have added a third or fourth or a fifth to it if they really went for it in the second half. But I think they did the right thing. There is no mileage. Their goal difference is superior. I understand City trying to score more goals right up into the final whistle, because they they need to catch that goal difference up, because it literally could come down to goal difference again this season. So I thought, as I say, it was a simplistic and easy performance for Arsenal. Not a game that we remembered for the ages by Arsenal fans, a game that neutrals probably switched off from when it went 2-0, but just another excellent display from them. They now sit top of that Premier League, and I'm really intrigued now to see this weekend's game, especially after Liverpool tomorrow. They're away at Brighton. I just want to go and check this. I'll check it while we're on the screen right now, because I don't actually know. I haven't looked as of yet. They play Saturday at 5:30. So City play first against Crystal Palace. Then it's Arsenal, as you can see with the fixtures up on the board right now. So it's likely again that City win. I would predict them to beat Palace, although they've had some dodgy results against Palace in years gone by. And if City win, Arsenal will be sitting probably third in the table by that point. So a massive game for Arsenal this weekend, which is why there was that added pressure tonight to go and get that done, especially with the rotation as well. This here says, Terry, if Spurs put that performance, you would be crucifying them. Spurs are not sitting top of the league and in a title race. And if your club's ever been in a title race, you would understand the fundamental differences. You cannot play with the amount of games Arsenal have got. I think they play, it's the third today, they play on the 6th, and they play on the 9th, then they play on the 14th, and they're playing on average, I think it's every 4.5 days this month. You cannot play at 100 miles an hour in every game when you're in a title race, when you're still in the Champions League. You can't do it. You've seen City with multiple trophy seasons. You can't do it. You have to learn how to adapt in game and know when to turn it on and turn it off. So it's not about crucifying anybody for a performance. If Arsenal were really lackluster the whole game and scraped a 1-0 over the line late on, then yes, it would be criticized. But I don't know if you've ever gone back and watched any Spurs match review where Spurs have taken an early lead, game managed their way through to the end, if I've ever sat there and slagged them off. Now, again, if Arsenal were being peppered, if Arsenal were being hurt, if they were getting, like, if Raya was making save after save after save when they took their foot off the gas, my reaction to the game would be very different. But that isn't what happened. So that's why it's not. So absolutely absolutely not. And I've praised Liverpool and City many times in the past on match reactions to doing exactly the same thing. So I'm just keeping that energy 110%. A training game could have give a couple men minutes. Yeah, look, this is the thing, though. You have to get the balance right. As much as he was bringing on players that are part of the first team, again, listen to what Liverpool players have said. Listen to what City players have said in recent years. They want to keep a rhythm. They want to get onto the football pitch as regularly as possible. They don't want to go a week. They don't want to go. You look at Martinelli coming on. By the time maybe he plays on Saturday against Brighton, look how many weeks it's been since he's actually had a full game under his belt. If he sits out this week, it's more missed game time. So I think you have to get the balance right. Equally, the guys who started the game like Smith Rowe, Nelson, Partey, because of the lack of starts, playing them for a full 90 minutes is dangerous. That is when it can lead to pulled muscles, strains, because their body hasn't been used to competitive sport for a long time. You have to get there. You don't want to do what Man United and Ten Hag have done. Between him and the medical team, we keep rushing players back, starting them too early. The training is too intense. And then they keep picking up more and more and more injuries. So much of that is on us as a club. So I think Arteta got that element absolutely spot on this evening. By the way, if you haven't done so yet, make sure you're hitting the like button and make sure you are subscribing. Now, when it comes to Manchester City, I just want to start with Phil Foden. He had an awful game at the weekend, predominantly because Arsenal was structured so well. They nullified the space. They defended impeccably, especially in the one-on-one situations. And Foden, who is a world-class player, was shut down by a top-class team and some world-class or very highly talented players. What I didn't like about the analysis, you've seen everybody going in on Erling Haaland, and I've defended him now, I think on about 3 or 4 streams and shows 3 days running. this League One nonsense. I saw people going in again on Foden after the weekend, that him having a game where he didn't really impact it proves he's not a top player. I really dislike this type of analysis because Messi and Ronaldo were not great in every game they played in. And they are, in my opinion, the greatest two football players of all time. But if we go a level down from that and you look at the Zidanes and the Ronaldinhos and the R9s, I watch them not regularly, and I'm not talking like 10, 20 times a season, but I watch them have games where they didn't really have any impact, where it wasn't really coming off of them. I especially saw top-class players in my lifetime, when they're still in their early 20s, have games where they didn't quite impact the football match. And we've gone into this world now where Foden can be amazing for 4 months. He can have one game where he doesn't perform, and everybody goes, look, there you go. See that there? I told you you weren't good. It's a madness to me. It's a madness. One bad game, and it's like, there we go, see? One bad game in 10. Told you he ain't consistent. What are you looking for? It's absolutely crazy. So I was really happy individually for Phil Foden this evening. Look, the first goal was a little fortuitous. Let's have it right. The wall split. Never should have gone in. The wall stays together. It's a poor free kick, but it goes in. He gets his goal. There you go. His second, made by Rodri. First time shot on his left foot, posting in perfection. The fourth goal, his third goal, City's fourth, it gave me Rooney vibes. A different type of strike. It wasn't a volley as such, but Rooney was arguing with a referee, turned around and volleyed it against Newcastle into the top corner. Looked for a foul, didn't get it, got back up, strikes the ball, puts it in the top corner, puts the cherry on top of the icing on top of the cake. And it was just a fantastic Phil Foden performance. He deserves a lot of plaudits from that. Overall, I thought City were, again, just their typical world-class selves. And I've called City out this season. I said at the top of the video, for having some flaws. And they have been susceptible to counterattacks this year. However, people are now running away with that like crazy, as if that means this is not still the best team in the world, as if this is not still peak City. City is still on their peak. There's a slight chink in the armor, but it's still the best team in the world. And I saw a lot of people, and I did call that man like Monts, hope you're well, and man like Don, Greasy Don, Chelsea fan. Both we're going back and forth on Twitter because Monts tweeted that Villa are actually attacking City interesting, which was clearly a dig at Arsenal. So I quote tweeted just by saying, and getting slapped. And this is what happens when you are not compact, right? And you don't respect City. Now, I understand and I take on board the challenge that Arsenal have better players than Villa, so therefore should be able to attack more. That's fair. I understand that. At the same time, I've asked this question for 4 or 5 days. Show me teams that have come to the Etihad, have attacked, brilliant or not, and walked away feeling proud of themselves. Walked away thinking to themselves, yeah, we lost, but well done. We drew, but well done. The mistake Arsenal made at the weekend against City was they didn't start the game with enough pace on the pitch, so they weren't able to capitalize when they won the ball back. The way they set up was fine. The personnel for the attack, I think, was wrong. So there's criticism within that. But I saw that tonight and thought it was so funny. The people were like applauding Villa for attacking City. And I was reading these tweets and saying, but they're going to get slapped. Are you not watching the game? City are dominating the ball like they did against Arsenal because they're the best team in the world, but Villa aren't respecting them enough. And they're going to get hurt. And I don't care if you've got the best defense in the world or an average defense. You open up against a peak City like now, or a peak Barcelona, or a peak Man United, or a peak Bayern Munich at their ground, 99 times out of 100, 999 times out of 1,000, you're getting slapped. At the very least, you're getting beat. These teams are too good. And I understand the notion that Chelsea went there and got a result and were quite expansive at times, and they're not as good as Arsenal. They're not even as good as Villa. But that isn't a measurement that you should be using in football. This results-based analysis of, well, my team beat them and your team didn't, therefore you should do the same thing my team did is crazy. I've seen It's sometimes you get like a perfect storm on the day where one team is better than expected, another team is worse than expected. There's a little bit of luck in the game and it goes a certain way. By the way, Chelsea still drew through some late changes they did into the team. But when you approach a game against Man City, you can't approach it on the off chance they're having a bad day. You have to set up and approach it based on them being at their best. So, yeah, I think Villa got it wrong tonight. I actually think it was also disrespectful what Villa did for the title race. So many of their better players started on the bench today. It was crazy. And I thought, you're not even trying to win this game. And they went 1-1. Yes, they did. But it was always going to end one way. City deserved it, by the way. Absolutely 110%. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. Some super chats here. First one says, I truly feel Arteta has learnt and in fine position will go all the way. I think he has got the players back and we are ready this season. Look, I think, Arsenal, my belief is Arsenal, City and Liverpool are going to go to the end. I think they're going to go to the end. Fair play to Villa for giving it a go. Lost 4-1, but at least people were entertained by the slapping they just received. This is the ironic thing I'm seeing on socials tonight, and I'm sure it's going to be on the airwaves tomorrow. And this is what a weird paradox we're in. If Villa get more praise for getting beat 4-1 than Arsenal getting a result. That would actually make me so happy if that was the case. 7 City players parked the bus around Jesus. Have you seen that picture, Terry? Yeah, I've seen the picture. It's just the rhetoric around Arsenal City's game the other day was very weird to me. Mount winner, dagger tomorrow, Foden and Palmer. Look, listen, I'm not even thinking about the Man United game tomorrow. I don't have much confidence in it at all. But yeah, look, if Mount was to get the winner in that game, it'd be a thing of beauty. It'd be a thing of beauty. It would be a thing of beauty. But how do Chelsea fans feel about Kai? Shit for us, is what Dyke has got to say here. No, I get it was bad for you. And I understand that. I just wonder how some Chelsea fans see watching him play well in a team top of the league, still in the Champions League, with them being where they are. It's a genuine question. It's a genuine question. Like if Rashford leaves Man United this year, goes somewhere else and is killing it, top of the league, winning things, and we're sitting like 10th, probably going to hurt me. If I'm being honest, it's going to hurt me a little bit. No doubt, because I'll be looking at his face all happy and smiling in his new world where I'm still sitting here depressed. So I'm just being honest. Haaland was the problem. KDB, no. Haaland wasn't the problem. KDB wasn't the problem. Arsenal nullified them. That's it. They were rested today, and they had to. By the way, City got a lot of games coming up as well. Let's not get it twisted. This is where, again, if your team hasn't been involved in title races, maybe you're not going to see it, and I understand it. This is where rotation comes in. This is the 2-month period where you really win the league, because you can't do it with your best 11. It's impossible. You have to, especially if you're in the Champions League, you have to do it with your squad. This is where your squad gets tested, and it's why this whole my 11 is better than your 11 is a nonsense. Football hasn't for decades now been won by first 11s. It's been won by squads and the overarching team and everything else that surrounds it. That's my view. People are crazy. Ron, R9, Henry all ghosted some games. Oh, of course they did. And of course, we just live in a weird era where people don't think that existed. But that's just my personal opinion. I'm going to bring the panel out now to have their say on the show tonight. Please hit the like button for us, by the way. Make sure you're subscribing if you haven't done so already to the Football Terrace. We have Dennis, we've got Saad, we've got Matt, we've got Patrick, we've got Nathan. I nearly called him Nathaniel. I don't know why. It's Nathan. I have no idea why. That's one of my best friends that I grew up with, his name, and just popped into my head, funnily enough. I haven't, by the way, you don't hear that name anymore. I don't know anyone young with that name. When I grew up as a kid, I had one a real good friend of mine called Nathaniel, and I knew 2 or 3 other lads from the area that had the same name. Don't hear it no more. I wonder why. Genuinely, you don't hear it. You don't hear my name anymore either, Terry. It's very old-fashioned. Maybe that's what it is. His brother's got an even more unique name. Nathaniel's big brother, another good friend of mine, is called Techley. Don't hear that name anywhere. I've never heard it again. Anyway, I've digressed massively. Bring the boys out for the show. to have their say tonight. Welcome back, gentlemen, to the terrace. Hope you're all well. Important victories for both of you tonight. Dennis, I want to go to you first. Comfortable 2-0 win, not the most entertaining of games, but break it down for us.
I think job done more than anything. Job done. It's one of those games, right, where squad was rotated. Just get the 3 points and move on. We've got a very busy April. A lot of games coming thick and fast. I think 8 games in April alone, and that doesn't even count if we get through to the next round, the Champions League after, which I think it starts in April. So for me, good to get some squad rotation as well, because you never know. Like, players might turn up in big moments. God forbid we get an injury. So it's always good to keep the match sharpness. So it was good to see players like Smith Rowe, especially Partey as well, because I think he's got a big part to play for the rest of the season if he stays fit. Nice to see him get some minutes. Ergod as well, always running around, man. Like, this guy always presses from minute 1 to minute 90. I think he needed a good performance as well, because there's a lot of question marks in his shoulders after Man City game, where he was a little bit, and I agree actually a little bit, I think he was missing his sharpness in attack, and that not necessarily cost us winning the game. I don't think we created enough chances to win it, but I think he needed a real good bounce back today and got a good performance out of him as well, and good rotation overall. So I'm delighted with how it went. Got our 3 points. Clean sheet as well is always important, because if you can't score a lot of goals, make sure you don't concede. And moving forward now, so hopefully another win to carry on Saturday. I'm just delighted overall.
Yeah, look, absolutely. I did think Odegaard had that good game. Obviously, as you say, not the most entertaining. But how impressed were you with the game management tonight? We've seen City do this so impeccably well in recent years, where they're in a title race, they're in the Champions League, you go 2-0 up, but then essentially you just sort of smother the rest of the game to waste no energy.
Yeah, 100% agree with you right there, because I feel like last season we were playing every single game at 5th gear from minute 1 to minute 90. But this season, I feel like we've got a much more game management side to us, where we're controlling games. We're at 2-0 up. We didn't necessarily hit the gas pedal for the 3rd goal. We just kind of eased it out, focused on our defensive side of the game, and we come out with a 2-0 win. And the second half, let's be honest, it was a training game. It was boring, but job done. No one's overexcited in terms of energy, and it means that, for the most part, players are fit, players are fresh, because that's more than anything so important. I know you spoke earlier about how the squad is very important. Arsenal as a team have had the least amount of injuries, I want to say, out of all the big teams in terms of Man City, Liverpool, of course, like United, Chelsea have stacked up the injuries, etc. Because we haven't exerted a lot of energy in our games. When I watch Liverpool play, I feel like the players are running like 90 minutes because they're chasing the game sometimes to hold on with seconds to go or to find the last minute winner. With us, I feel like this season especially, we've been much more controlled in our performances, and that comes from the defensive side. Your defense is your bedrock. If your defense is solid, then you build the attack going forward. But as long as your defense is good, that's where the bedrock is. That's the starting point. And I feel like we've been really good this season from that side. And I trust us defensively more than anything. So I know if we get 2-3 goals, we can ride it out to the end of the game. And I'm not worried about us conceding a silly goal.
Absolutely. Yeah. Matt, how did you feel about it tonight?
Yeah, no, I feel that the first half, was very good. I was very impressed with Smith Rowe. His pressing for that first goal, just really impressed me, to be honest, because, he hasn't really had the opportunities to shine this season. And that pass to Kai Havertz, who then passed it to Odegaard, he literally sliced the ball like as a cool finish. Yeah, it was very composed. And then for the second goal, we got a bit of luck with that own goal. And then in the second half, like, it was kind of just like a training game, like why football said, really.
Absolutely. And Sard, I mean, what was your thoughts on the game? A lot of rivals calling it out as a sort of negative. A lot of rivals calling it out as boring. Is that how you saw it as an Arsenal fan?
Listen, I'm always going to have emotions. So Arsenal games are not really going to be boring to me, because there's always a sense of I want to get more goals. You know what I mean? I'm investing in it. But maybe for rivals, it was boring. But for me, there's always emotion. I did want to say one thing. For me, not that I'm just trying to nitpick on the small things, but I don't know if you guys realized, yeah, every time Reiss Nelson on the attack, he's slowed the attacks down every single time. And I'm like, if we're bringing you on, and if we're getting you to play these games, and we're getting you to play these games in the moments that we need you, I can't have you slowing down the attack. Every time he's slowing down the attack, he's trying to pass to the side, he's trying to pass backwards. I'm like, bro, I need you, as soon as you get the ball, you have pace. I know you have pace. So move forward and carry the ball with you. Do you know what I mean? And other than that, to be honest, it was a good game from us. It was very controlled. And yeah, we just kind of drifted through the game after the second goal was scored. It was just, you know, a team that's in a title race. That's the kind of performance you see. You've seen them from City, you've seen them from Liverpool, you've seen them from Man United of old. You know what I mean? You saw them of Arsenal of old when we were in the when we were winning titles. Like these are just, sometimes you have to have these performances, and where you score 2 goals. I don't want them to lose that hunger though. I know we can't fully go every single game like 10 out of 10, like literally using up all of our energy, but just don't lose that hunger. I still want you to go for goals, but don't get too relaxed in games, because you need to keep on pushing, because City out of nowhere can do something like this: 4-1, 5-1, 6-1. They could do it in like a 3-game stretch, and then all of a sudden they're racking up that goal difference, and all of a sudden they're not far behind us. So we definitely need to keep a little jump on our goal difference, just to, because it really could come down to that at the end for me.
So I kind of thought of this game as like, but for the fringe players, as in like, you know, show us what you can do basically, because, you know, some have been complaining about the game time that they have received. So it was kind of like, you know, show us what you can do really. And I thought Smith Rowe, you know, grabbed that opportunity with both hands. You know, he played really well in that first half, and then obviously in the second half it was kind of like a training game. But I feel like Reiss Nelson just didn't see that from him. Like I didn't see that. Like he wanted to be here next season. With Smith Rowe, I saw that.
I don't think, but I think that's just. I say it bluntly, Matt. Reiss Nelson just is not that good. He's a good squad player, but I think what you saw from Reiss Nelson tonight was Reiss Nelson's level. He's an okay player, but I don't think you're going to see much.
It wasn't even a good Luton team though, and he's not that bad.
I understand that, but I think you're labouring under an illusion that Reiss Nelson's that good. It's his first time.
I probably am as well.
It's the first time in 4 years he started a Premier League game. That should tell you all you need to know.
4 years.
Yes.
First, well, that's what the commentator said. I'm going by the commentator stat. They're normally right on those things. And if your manager ain't starting him for 4 years in the Prem, maybe it was at home. Maybe it was at home as opposed to away. I'm not, but that tells you that he's not even he ain't a first team squad player. He is a fringe player. You guys can get so much better than him in the transfer market in the summer. I wouldn't even be worried about it personally. I don't know what you think, Nathan, on that, but I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I just don't think it's something to stress about.
Yeah, I mean, I've never looked at Reiss Nelson as being anything as somebody who we can maybe make money off in the future. That's for me. He's not a player that has the quality or the ability to excel at Arsenal or to push Bukayo Saka, even Martinelli on the left-hand side. So for me, you know, even the likes of Trossard, I'm not going to lie, I feel the same way about Trossard. I don't think he's a player who's able to hold the width, to be able to stretch teams, to, you know, be direct, be his player one-on-one. He struggles, and that's it. For me, he's a player that comes good when he's closer to the opposition box. And they both have their limitations. But again, for me, in this game, it's all about the 3 points. I think Dennis alluded to it. We have a game every 3 or 4 days, all the way up until the end of April. And if we were successful against Bayern Munich, it will continue into May. So with that being said, we need to, you know, chop and change. We need to chop and change, bring players in, and we're going to need the squad to contribute. And the likes of Partey and Zinchenko have been injured for the majority parts of the season. It's good to have them back, getting some minutes in. I didn't think Zinchenko was particularly great, but again, it's just the minutes. Partey looked, you know, good on the ball. Physically looked a bit off it, but that's to be expected. Emil Smith Rowe came in, made an impression, right? Assist for the goal, had a contribution for the first goal as well. So all in all, I mean, when you kind of sit back and look at it, it was a very professional performance whilst also being in cruise control. We didn't exert too much energy. We kept the ball. We just did what's necessary. Like, we didn't push the pace to try and get more goals. And when you've got that amount of games up and coming, then I kind of respect it, because that's something you'd expect from a mature side, from a City side at times, where if the game's won, they don't need to keep on. They don't need to overkill, because there's no need. They're thinking about the race, the marathon, and how to kind of navigate that. So for me, you know, although the game itself wasn't nothing special, it wasn't the most enjoyable game. For me, it was a professional performance and 3 points in one game down. So
can I just say off the back of the
that's my thoughts on the game. To be fair with you, and I'm quite happy with the 3 points. And we've got a big game against Brighton on Saturday, which is a tough place to go. The Amex is notoriously a tough game for all the big teams. So all in all, I think being able to kind of drop the likes of Reiss, give Partey 10 minutes, Martinelli had a breather as well, and kind of integrate some plays was good with that game and buying on the fringes.
Can I just say off the back of the Reiss Nelson point? I think we've been a little bit unfair to Reiss, man, like the slander, because the guy hasn't had a lot of minutes for Arsenal this season. He's come in. I agree. I don't think he was great. But I don't think anyone in the Arsenal team today was really amazing. I think it was just a professional game. I agree he probably should have been a little bit more direct when he got the ball. But that's also Arteta telling him what to do. Like, I think Arteta prefers if his wingers are a bit more safe. Like, how many times do we see Saka get the ball on the right-hand side, and his first thought is pass it inside to Ødegaard or pass it back to Ben White? So I don't think, look, I agree that I don't think Reiss Nelson is ever going to reach the stage where he's a starter for Arsenal or going to help us to go on to win a Premier League, for example. But I think it's a little bit unfair to potentially slander him out or single him out for this game, because I don't think he was bad by any means. And look, his run into the box for the second goal, yeah, it might not be his goal because it's an own goal, but he made that run into the area and got us that goal at the end of the day. So look, I think Reiss Nelson, the times I've seen him play, I think he does always give effort when he plays. I'm always gonna have a place in my heart for him after that goal against Bournemouth that I thought was going to enable us to go on to win the league. So yeah, I think it's a little bit unfair to single out Reiss for this particular game, because he hasn't had a lot of minutes. And whenever he comes off the bench, he always puts in a shift, man. And normally it is only 10, 20 minutes, if that.
Yeah, I hear you on that. Obviously, another game tonight. City, Patty, Foden turned up, got you the goals. Talk to us.
You know what? Let me drop some knowledge from Africa. We say that hyenas can laugh at a lion, but they always know that the lion is the king of the jungle. I told people that Foden is going to be the player of the season, and I think people were laughing. The funny thing about Foden is there's people who try to put like a sort of stamp on him based on Gareth Southgate, how he plays him for England. They're like, oh, look at him for England, as if in England some players actually outshine. Look, Jude shines because he's given that role where he can shine, but Foden, Gareth Southgate doesn't know what to do with him. He didn't even know what to do with Sancho. People try laughing at Sancho, but Sancho is a good player, and Gareth Southgate didn't know what to do with Sancho. But anyway, talking about this game, man, this game was good. We had to do payback because let's not forget, this season, Aston Villa embarrassed us away at Villa. And you can see the boys from the beginning, they wanted to make sure that we have to get payback. The pressing was good. Foden in that number 10, again, we've told people multiple times that it's his time. I told people that in my preview on my channel today is that we should drop KDB. People were pissed off in the comments. I said we should drop him because I think he'll be better as an impact sub going forward. And Foden plays better as the 10, and he's been good this season. And the fluid football we saw today was incredible. Julian Alvarez linking up. Obviously, he missed a few. It was just a professional and sort of stamp for City. I think they wanted to stamp themselves. I saw a few fans on Twitter trying to downplay it, say that Villa ain't all that, but Villa are fourth. That makes me laugh. But there's not much to say, Terry, for this game. We were incredible. We were good. Foden was outstanding. People who doubted Doku was very good. He got his assist. Again, that's 6 assists for Doku this season. But people still call him Beetlejuice. People still call him names that he's nothing. He's a player that has no end product. We're eating good. We're eating good. And I'm also happy for Arsenal. They're also eating good. At this point in time, we just focus on City and we focus how we go forward. That's all I can say.
I hear you, mate. And on Phil Foden, you know, he did rise to the top today. Another hat-trick for him. I think that's 20 goals this season. Do you think he's been the best player in the Premier League this season?
I think he has. Mention another one, please.
Declan Rice?
Yeah, but I think Foden has been good.
I think Rodri's actually been better than Foden, especially when you consider that assist for the for his second goal. That was all Rodri in terms of the way he created that space, the quick feet, especially from somebody who's a defensive midfielder, even to get the goal, the initial goal. Rodri, for you lot, right? When he doesn't play, it's a whole different city.
I get you from that, and that's, I think we had this other conversation that there's certain players that are just that good. Foden, why I'm putting him above a bit is this season when it's been peak, where is the goal gonna come from in a very crucial game? Foden is the one who scores first or scores for us. So when the other team equalizes, it's Foden who scores the winner for us. So he's actually been very, very good this season. But you know what? It is what it is. If you look at the league, let's go outside.
No, I just want to say the reason why I disagree is because I look at two games. I look at the game against us when we came to the Etihad. I look at the game against Liverpool when you went to Anfield. Those games were screaming out for a player to just grab the game by the scruff of the neck and just make something out of nothing. Do you know what I mean? And if there's a player that you need to step up, if there's a player of the season that you need to step up for you, they're going to step up in those games. And for me, Foden ghosted on both of those games. Both of those games, he was a ghost. And he wasn't involved in both of those games because he rarely ever got the ball because it was all going centrally. I know he was on the right for Liverpool and he was on the left for us one.
Yeah, but that's
thing. What I'm saying.
You see, that's the thing where people will pick games like that. I get it. You're trying to pick, but that's all you're picking. You're ignoring all. No. Let me finish. You're ignoring all what he's been doing this season. As I said, when we've needed goals, when our team has been stinking, this season, City sometimes has been stinking. Foden has come to the top and taken ownership as a number 10, as a role that everybody has said he was meant for. So look, I can do the same thing. I can start going into people's teams and start picking that. Where was your star boy? Where was your boy during this game? Because if I go with the
terms of the odds. In terms of the odds, Patty, sorry to interject, the odds with the bookmakers now, Rodri is currently the favourite, Phil Foden second favourite, followed by Declan Rice, and then in fourth place is Van Dijk, in fifth place is Mo Salah, in sixth place is Bukayo Saka. That's with the bookmakers in terms of where people are putting their money. I get where Saad's coming from. I think player of the year, forget the problem with the PFA player of the year is that I swear the voting's already done. I swear they do it in like February or March. And I've always thought that's the dumbest thing in the world because in this next 2 months...
Yeah, they do it early,
In this next 2 months, it could be Rice, it could be Rodri, it could be Mo Salah for Liverpool as an example. Mo Salah in the next... single-handedly beats Man United, wins 3 or 4 games to Liverpool that end up making them win the league, but yet they voted for Player of the Year a month ago. It's crazy, but it could be Foden. I think they're gonna give it to Rodri with that. I think he's only behind Sol Campbell now for the longest unbeaten run as an individual player in the Premier League. I think he's just got to beat Sol Campbell's record now.
Yeah, he has.
Terry,
it's 13 below, isn't it? 13 below, 13.
13. So what is that, Matt?
So I'd probably say that the Player of the Year can kind of be based on who wins the Premier League. Because I think if Manchester City do win the Premier League, I think Phil Foden will get it. I think if Arsenal win it, I think Declan Rice will get it. And I think if Liverpool win it, I think Virgil van Dijk will get it. All 3 players have been very crucial to...
They may, but what I just said, Matt, unless they've changed the format, what I'm saying is the voting happens already. So what we're saying is these next 2 months can sometimes become inconsistent. I swear I've read before, and maybe they've changed that.
No, you're right. Do you remember Gundogan? Do you remember Gundogan was robbed? Gundogan was very good.
Yeah, I swear I've read somewhere that and it may not be the PFA one, or it may be the football rights, but there is an award where I swear because they have to get the votes in and get it all collected. They can't wait till the end of the season because everyone's gone on holiday. They have to do it. They have to do it when the season's still on. It might be a little bit later, but yeah.
The reason I put Rodri and Rice up as the first two, in my opinion, is because they've been consistent throughout the whole season. You know, like if I'm gonna keep the same energy for Saka. Saka's had moments where he's ghosted off. I've seen Phil Foden have moments, not just 2 games, but I've seen Foden have patches where questions have been asked in this season, and then he's come back and he's risen to the top again. So I don't think those questions have been asked of Declan Rice and Rodri. I think those 2 players have been a staple of their teams, right? I think obviously, like everybody, they can all have bad games. I know Rodri got sent off one game. I know Declan Rice had the game at West Ham. Of course, players can have the occasional bad game, but I don't think those players have had a series of bad games where they struggled. and that's where I would put those two players as the two front runners as opposed to Foden.
Yeah, and just to clarify, I just Googled it now. Early spring, each member of the association votes for two players. A short list of nominees is published in April, and the winner is awarded along with the winner. So the voting is done in early spring, according to this. So yeah, it's always been a weird with technology now. You could literally do it via like quick on your phone in about 10 minutes at the end of the season. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy because so much can change between now and then.
Joe, that's football in general. It's so outdated. It's football right now. We're in the state that it's in. It's so outdated from how we still have the blackouts at 3 o'clock. How we still do the voting like this.
That's a little bit to do with ticketing for smaller clubs, but I get you. But imagine it's Rodri and Declan Rice head to head, and Rice has been voted as PFA Player of the Year, and it's neck and neck. And on the final day of the season, City need to score 3 goals to win, and Rodri gets a hat trick.
Yeah.
That for me would tip him over the edge to be Player of the Year, but he ain't going to get it. And yeah, that's why they've got to change it. Is it antiquated?
Jerry, but the other one, I think the writers one comes in, so it's also good.
The writers one is there as well. Absolutely. V, what you saying, bro? Obviously out there in the motor, still daytime in Canada. What did you make of your boys tonight? And I want to see if your tone is different this evening to the other day.
Well, I think I'm going to sound the exact same as I did the other day. So
no, you don't. You sound happier.
All right, everyone in the chat, go back and watch that last show and tell me if my voice is different. Go back and watch that. Let me know next show if my voice is different.
You know what the difference is? You got a smile on your face today. That's what the difference is, bro. You come in, this guy is skin and teeth. I see his teeth, his mouth. You know what I mean, bro? I'm like, this guy, bro. What's going on?
Why would I be smiling after a draw? That has nothing to do with anything. But this is
No. You're smiling.
Let me talk about my team. You're wasting my time. Let me talk about my team. I'm so impressed to see an entertaining game. It was good to see how they performed today. Shout out to Aston Villa. I think Unai Emery actually has that club on the right track. Obviously, there's certain things that they need, get back from injuries, improving their quality. But in terms of the manager at that club, I think they've got a bright future. The result is what we needed, man. I mean, I wish we were able to keep a clean sheet. I wish we were. I mean, I'm happy that we were able to like chip at that goal differential. But performance-wise, Foden, honestly, whenever it's been asked of him, you know that he puts in the effort to have to give the performance. And when we've had games without Roger or KDB, like Patrick was talking about, Foden has been the one to step up. And that's why I agree with him in terms of how important he's been for us. Because it's not additional goals. Sometimes it's winning goals or it's tying goals, and it's leading to a winning goal. He's been so critical. Overall, happy with the performance though, because we've got a game versus Crystal Palace next, and we've had some bogey teams. I think Aston Villa, I think maybe some of their fan base are probably bragging about getting 3 points off of City for this season, but Crystal Palace in particular, they've been tough for us. So we need to make sure that we keep this pace with Arsenal, with Liverpool, and win one game at a time. There's 8 games left, and it's really whoever falters first. This is Liverpool's title to lose, so we just need to make sure we stay within striking distance. The goal differential will deal with itself, but we got to deal with games one at a time, and I'm really happy with the team.
There's a couple of things I want to. What did you say about Villa at the beginning? I slightly missed that. You praised them and said what? Sorry.
Oh, I just said I think Unai Emery's got them on the right track. I mean, he's obviously dealing with injuries. There was no Watkins today, right? So I think when he gets his squad and he continues to build it, I think the future for Aston Villa is really bright. Like they're strongly in this top 4. So yeah, I was just giving him praise in terms of that. I think
I just missed the beginning of what you said. And when you I want to throw your question out, and I'll throw it out to the rest of the panel. I'll go to Dennis first on this. Is it Liverpool's title to lose from this point, in your opinion?
That's actually really interesting you asked that, because I was literally thinking this earlier today. So Liverpool, in terms of points wise and running, I think everyone can agree they're probably in the commanding position to win the title.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but my gut tells me they won't win it. I know it's crazy to say that, but I just look at them this season as opposed to Arsenal, Man City. I've watched Arsenal every game this season from us, so I know we're much better from last year in terms of our control of the game, our attacking side and our defensive side. And Man City, I mean, I never expect them to drop points. Just like today, when they play against Palace, I believe it's next week, They play the week after. I never expect them to ever drop points. But with Liverpool, I don't know what it is, but I just see them imploding at some point. I think because when I watch them play, I feel like they sometimes just sneak a victory out of nowhere. I think although on paper they are the favourites to do it, if I actually bring everything into it in terms of their performances thus far this season, how I've seen them actually rely on individuals sometimes to get the job over the line and actually dominating the game from start to finish, I do think Liverpool will drop the title. I don't think they'll do it. But objectively, given the points on the board, given the running to go, they are favourites to win it. They are in the commanding position.
I disagree with that because like I have been saying that, Terry, all season, and I don't know if you guys, there's just something, like that's the thing about Liverpool and Klopp. It's not about them playing good. They just have something. They just don't want to die. They just don't want to go away. Like I was saying it to one of my friends, was like, they'll be the first ones that between City, as bad as City are, Liverpool will be first. But no, man, it's not happening. It's not happening with them. They will be embarrassed in the first half, and you'll be like, oh, yeah, this is the day. They'll come second half and rip the other team apart and somehow find a way. And for them to have those injuries they had, for Salah to go to Africa and them to still manage to be beating teams by 4, I don't know, man. I'm telling you guys, it's peak. We have to be praying. Like right now, we just have to pray that something happens, like there's a red card or a pen, or you just go as a bad day. But I think these guys are focused. And you can hear Van Dijk's interview on Sky. He says, we want to win this because last time we won it, there was no fans, and we want to win it for Klopp, and he deserves it. And when I heard that, I looked at my brother and said, we're screwed. I was like, we are screwed.
Can I play
But
devil's
do you not
advocate?
think that they'll
Can
be
I-
over like emotional though?
Well, I was about to say that question.
Yeah.
A great question, Matt. And I'm playing devil's advocate because they're my favourites from here. So I want to say this to Liverpool fans because I am not changing my mind. I'm being a host by asking a question. A question doesn't mean I believe the answer to it or believe the way it's being implied. But
Terry, why do
could,
you have to do
as
that?
Matt just said, it could they be? I got a V first on this. Could Liverpool be too over emotional because they're trying to win it for Klopp and lose sight of business?
No, they've been an emotional team, I think, under Klopp from the very beginning. Like he said, doubters to believers. Like it's always been an emotional thing with them, how they galvanize and how they play. You see every time he's bringing on a player on from the bench onto play, he charges them up, he gets them all amped up, and it's an emotional charge. I don't think they're going to lose sight of this because there's an end to this. I believe I could be wrong. I believe there's 47 days left until Klopp is no longer manager at Liverpool. So they know that it's coming to an end.
Woo!
Yeah,
I'm
listen,
happy about
I'm
that.
celebrating that day with you,
I'm
Terry.
I'm waiting for your bald fraud to go and all, and then I'm going to have a party. I hate your two, man. You ruined our lives.
In the documentary, Terry, he says he's too comfortable. He said, I'm too comfortable and happy with my wife here. That's what he
You
said.
got a couple years.
I ain't watching that nonsense either. I'm telling you. No, I will watch it. I will. You learn from it, don't you? I don't want to watch it though. I saw you tweet about it last night, Patty. I turned my phone off. I was like, screw yous, man. Screw yous.
Nah, it's great. I've only watched the first 2 episodes. Shout out and check that out on Netflix. But I think they're well suited to win this. Like they're 3 points up on myself. They're 2 points up on Arsenal if they win their game in hand now. Okay, guys, relax. But they're in command. They're in control. It's for them to drop points for this not to happen. And I think because they know Klopp is leaving, I don't think they slip up. I really don't.
Our hope is Man United. Our hope is Man United. Our hope is Man United away.
Oh,
We can't count on United to do anything, man.
I want to beat them so bad. But let me ask this question. If Liverpool being very emotional is a good thing, why do Arsenal get criticised for being emotional?
I think it's a good question. I actually agree 100% what you said. Liverpool always thrived off emotion. I see every like it's Anfield. I don't know what it is about Anfield, but I watch Anfield, right? Well, a Liverpool player at Anfield, and they always have a chance there with the emotion. Like I've seen them win 4-0 against Barcelona in a game I didn't even think I was going to bother watching. I started watching it thinking, I'm going to watch it for why not? It's a Champions League game, and they win the game 4-0 with their 2 best players, arguably. Salah and Mane not even there, I don't think. So Liverpool thrive off that emotion. I just look at it from this side and go, take the emotion out of it. When it comes to fighting for a Premier League title, every single game they get closer towards the end, The games, they're all worth 3 points, but the magnitude of them increases. Everyone can agree with this. A game played after 10 games is not the same as a game played with 3 games left after 35. The magnitude is so much higher. And I look at Liverpool this season, I see the fact that I know every team scrapes by in certain games, but Forest away by the skin of their teeth, I'm talking. Even Brighton on the weekend. I mean, they concede after 2 minutes. I don't see Arsenal, Man City really conceding after 2 minutes, to be honest. I just sit there and go, is it going to become just they're getting by too soon, too early? Just like Arsenal last season when everyone was saying it's too early for them to scrape by in all these results. I feel like the same thing's happening with Liverpool. I just sense somewhere they're going to implode. I just don't think they've got the run in them to go towards the end of the season unbeaten. And I'm calling it here. I don't think they win against United on the weekend. I genuinely don't. I can't see them going to Old Trafford and getting a win. They might not necessarily lose the game. United might get something. But I can't see them going to Old Trafford and turning over United, because no matter how bad United are, United know it's Liverpool. And if one thing about United, they always turn up against Liverpool at Old Trafford. I seen the same thing in the FA Cup, the same thing last season. So I think if Liverpool do win against United at Old Trafford, I will hold my hands up and say Liverpool are going to win the title. I genuinely think that. But I genuinely think they won't win next week or on the weekend against United.
United, I wouldn't expect
all the big three.
I think the difference is that I think with Liverpool, it's controlled emotion. I think it's not they've got more maturity about them, as opposed to Arsenal is a bunch of we're a young squad, right? We didn't have that much experience last season. It hasn't necessarily been the history of the club in that type of way, as Dennis alluded to. Like, Anfield is in a very emotional place, and they really get behind their team, whether they're winning, whether they're losing. They're always trying to kind of uplift. I think at Arsenal sometimes when things go bad, I think I remember it last season at Brighton, heads kind of drop within the crowd, you get more murmurs. I think Anfield is a bit more of a supportive place, and it kind of uplifts the players, and also it kind of brings down the other team. It makes, like we've seen Pep City. How many times has Pep City gone there and just shrunk and not been able to deal with the atmosphere? And in regards to Liverpool, I think Liverpool are, in my opinion, by far the favourites, because when you look at their fixtures, and also there's this whole thing about sustainability. When I was watching Liverpool at the beginning of the season, I was looking at them like the way they play, the way they allow chances on goal, how open they are defensively. This ain't sustainable. You can't continue to do this and get as far as they've got. And then eventually you have to hold your hands up and be like, well, there are seasons where this kind of takes place. And I remember this as an Arsenal fan where I was against Conte's Tottenham, and they were getting opened up all the time. But Harry Kane, Son would just do their bit of brilliance and just get and bail them out week after week. And I kept saying, like, it's not gonna, it's not gonna continue. And eventually, it sustained them to the end of the season. So there's a point where it does become sustainable. It just happens to be the ethos of the club, or for that particular season. It might not be sustainable over 2 or 3 seasons, but it can be sustainable over one set of seasons. And that's why I actually think they're favourites. I mean, their fixture running is a lot more favourable than the likes of Arsenal's and even City's. And, with that whole emotion, with that firepower as well, I think they've got the most potent attack in the league. And that's what allows them to just keep on, getting through games. And when they get the likes of Trent back, Alisson back, Jota back, who they've dealt with so well without, it's only going to strengthen them within that tight running. So I think, not to put pressure on them, but in my honest opinion, I think they're favourites.
Yeah, I have Liverpool as favourites. I think that the know-how is key, and I don't think emotion's a bad thing in football at all. I mean, you could argue it is, because Liverpool seem more emotional than City, and City have come out on top. Gary Neville speaks about how Man United had very little emotion in our challenges, really, against the Blackburns, the Newcastles, Arsenals, and Chelseas. We came out on top in all of those battles over a period, and Liverpool in the Premier League era, we came out on top. So maybe there's something in that as an example, because if something does go wrong and it's based on emotion, can you recover? If you're if you're emotionless, a setback isn't going to impact you as much. So I think there's a lot to it. But from my point of view, Liverpool have to be the favourites from this point. They play the worst team in the league tomorrow in Sheffield United. So they're going to have a 3-point gap over Man City, the best team in the world, a 2-point gap over Arsenal. And the one thing that's against Arsenal, and I've said it all season, it's just the know-how of getting over the line. But I do think they've been probably the best team, most amount of goals scored, defensively the best team in the league this season. And then with City, I just can't. Right, again, if they'd have lost tonight, I'd have said I don't think they'll do it. But they are the best team in the world, or have been over the past 4, 5, 6 years. There's genuinely low odds, like not the odds you get on them doing the treble. It's worth a little bit, but it isn't worth a lot of money because there's not that much return. A team that could go back-to-back trebles for the first time in football history, it is still hard to completely say, nah, you've got no chance. And I think if Arsenal were to come through this as the victors against those two teams, it would be. Look,
would you have to say
you could argue the achievement. You could argue the achievement because of the quality you're beating would be better than than your invincible season. Yes, you were up against. I mean, that wasn't the best Man United team back in those. We had a pretty poor year. We didn't win it that year, and we didn't win it. We didn't win the league for 3 or 4 years in that point. Chelsea weren't quite peak at that stage. You're going up against two teams that everybody is saying are two of the greatest English teams of all time. So I don't know if it's better than your 98. I don't know if it's better than your 2002 because those are up against really good teams as well. But it'll be one of the best titles I think Arsenal have ever won, and vice versa. I mean, this is a great title race. It's the first time there's been a 3-horse race now in about 15 years. Overall, it's just absolutely amazing to watch. But Liverpool right now, my marginal favourites.
To add to that,
can I just throw this out to you?
Just to add to that,
really quickly, right?
that if we went on that run, if we were to win a title, if you look at our form from January up until the end of the season, if we were to go and win that title, that would be actually quite special because the amount of points we've amassed, the amount of goals we've scored, our defensive record, it's been a very solid run thus far. And that's one of the most impressive things about it.
I do want to say about the comments, right? People calling me a simp and I'm taking it too far. I did that on purpose. Because all I've had pumped down my throat as a Man United fan for the past few years is these are the greatest two teams in English football history. So I've used that logic back against you all by saying, well, if Arsenal pip you both to a title, that becomes one of Arsenal's greatest titles. Suddenly that's nonsense. Is it nonsense? Sorry, Matt, let me finish. Sorry. Is it nonsense because you don't believe the City and Liverpool team are as good as you've said they are? Or are you saying it's nonsense because you've realized that you've set a standard now, which means anybody that beats one of these teams to a trophy, it goes down as greatness, especially Liverpool fans? I want to know because it can't be, they can't be two of the greatest teams of all time. And then somebody beats them to a massive trophy and that team isn't hugely praised for it. Am I right or wrong?
You're wrong.
Oh, you're right.
How am I wrong?
You're wrong because at the time of these teams being called the greatest, they're being called that at the point of their success, at the point of winning the title. So when City Centurions were winning or when they were scoring 98 points, that's at the peak of their powers. That's what we're saying. It's not the longevity of the 5-6 years.
You got a treble last season. So let me ask you this question.
Terry, do we look like the treble team of last season?
You are still amazing. Are you as good? No, but the point I'm making is this team this year, you could have won the treble last year as well. I don't think the drop is hugely significant. In fact, of course, because Liverpool weren't as good. League-wise, Liverpool weren't as good as they are this year. So you'd have been in a 2-horse race with Arsenal. Arsenal have been, I would say, better in terms of defensively, but they don't have as many points. In terms of European football, even with the slight tinks in your armor that you've got this year with Gundogan leaving and Mahrez leaving, you're telling me you weren't genuinely the best team in Europe last year. Come on now. And to challenge your point is this. If Man United win the league next year of 110 points, and then the following season the team beats us, they're beating the team that are champions of 110 points. It doesn't suddenly become a new Man United team because the following year we don't win the league. Like, I don't think it ends that quickly.
Terry, look how poor Liverpool were last year. Look how poor they were. No one would say that they were one of the best teams in the league. They were very poor. So when Arsenal beat them last season, it's not like they did a madness against a very good team because Liverpool were poor. And
they're not favourites for the Champions League right now. Aren't you essentially the favourites right now for the Champions League?
We're always favourites. We won it for the first time last season, but we've been favorites for the last 7 years, ever since Pep got here.
But you know why you're the? I don't know if you've been the favourites that whole time, but you've definitely been it regularly. But you know why you're the favourites for it, and maybe we see football differently. I think you judge who's been the best team this season based on the league table. When you're judging who the best team in the world is, you're looking at a body of work over a 4, 5, 6 year period. That for me, and you guys can challenge it if you want, has always been and should continue to be how you judge who the best teams in the world truly are. Because were Chelsea the best team in Europe the year they won the Champions League? Most would say no, because they didn't do that well in the league, but they were still European champions. To be the best team in Europe, I think you have to dominate your own league or be very consistent in your own league and go on to win those European trophies. And City, what you have become is an almost unbeatable force. And all I'm saying is this. It's only like if last season's treble winners are the greatest English team of all time, if a team that's on course to potentially do a back-to-back treble is being spoken about by the media as the greatest English team of all time, if Arsenal pip you to a league title, just for Arsenal, surely that makes it an even bigger achievement.
Not than the Invincibles. It's a massive achievement, but the Invincibles will never.
And I get for you guys, that's very unique. But I'm playing devil's advocate based on the fact that the way people talk up this Liverpool and the City team, and rightfully so, that they've done great things. I think this is where you're going to see people start to backtrack on that because they won't want to start giving Arsenal the accolades that come with beating not just one of them, but both of them at the same time to a league title.
I think you're spot on because victory is always better against when you're up against the best, right? So a league title against City and Liverpool is better than say had Arsenal won the league when Leicester won the league and Leicester were their closest rivals, right? It would, when we're looking at the race, you would hold the one against Liverpool and City in higher esteem. So I think when you're up against the better teams or the better teams in the league who are considered one of the best, of course it will mean a little bit more. I think that's natural.
Yeah, again, and I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, there are people, again, the media have said, loads of people have said the greatest title race in Premier League history. I disagree, but they're saying it is. If you win the greatest, quote unquote, greatest Premier League title race of all time, that's a massive accolade. But I'm just putting it out there now because you will see people change the narrative. City were off this, it weren't this. These are great Liverpool and City teams. And I know Liverpool were a little bit off of it last year, but the overall body of work they've put in the last 5, 6, 7 years makes them one of the best teams in the world still. But I'm just throwing it out there. We've got some super chats here, guys. This says, if Arsenal win the league, the narrative won't be Arsenal won the titles. It will be the other teams lost it.
Same as Bundesliga with Bayer Leverkusen and Bayern Munich a little bit. I feel like if Bayer Leverkusen do go on to win it, I feel like massive credit to them. But I feel like the overarching feeling would be that Bayern Munich threw it away. They bottled it.
Well, you've already seen it
because they're undefeated, aren't they? So they're currently invincible in their league, right? So I think it's a different kind of. There's a different narrative about it because they've gone on and they've beaten or drawn to almost every team in that league so far. So it's not as if, the points margin is lesser, like when Leicester won it, right? It's to do with...
They're heading towards the points. They've only drawn 4 games, have won 23. Again, not taking nothing away from your Invincibles. Was there like 11 draws in your season?
Well, a lot of our draws came once we won the league. I think that's
okay. But I'm also looking at this from the points total they could get for a smaller league in terms of 2 less teams in it. Their points total could be mammoth as well. So I agree with you, Dennis. There'll be some people, I think because Alonso's staying, that won't happen as much. If Alonso left and went to Liverpool, you get people that dislike Liverpool that would start to push that narrative a lot harder, I think, because everybody's always out there. And this is all that's going to happen to Arsenal if you win the league, I agree, is what people do is when they're winning things, they try to over elevate it. And when other people are winning things, they try to downplay it. And this is typical. I don't play that game because typically when you do it, eventually you're going to damage your own club, whether it's something you've previously achieved or something that you're going to go on to achieve in the future. Because it's everyone that slags off Arsenal's Invincibles. I do think a treble's better. But I've seen people slag it off like it ain't that much. I would love to see their reaction if their team then went and did an Invincible. I'd never slag it off for that. Terry, your last 2 favorites lost the title. Please pick City. That's true, actually. Not pre-season favorites, but in-season favorites. You're right. United and Everton away scare me. If we can get 4 to 6 points in those, I'm confident we win the title. But you know what? Something you said earlier, Dennis, about it might have been Nathan actually, about playing games in a title race. It's different pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is one of the reasons why I'll never put a Thierry on. Sorry, I would never put a Harry Kane in the Premier League on par with Henry, with Aguero, with Rooney, with Cantona, because he never did it year in, year out in those games that he doesn't even know. Ironically, he doesn't even this year know what those games are like because Bayern Munich are already out of the title race. So he doesn't know what it's like to play under that level of scrutiny and pressure. Equally, if it's a three-horse race to that degree and one of you comes out on top, you could argue this could be the best title that's been won in this kind of Pep era of the Premier League because there's three teams going toe-to-toe to the end, which makes every game, it isn't the pressure of one team winning, it's two teams winning. It's just why I think it's going to be an amazing end to this season. Cool, smash the like button. Thank you, Luke. These sounds happier today. You can't fool us, man, is what AJ says here. Palmer favorite for young player of the year confirmed. Yes, he is. I read that earlier.
Is he really? How? How exactly? When Bukayo Saka is
listen, I'm gonna be blunt with you, bruv. I don't care that he fits in age-wise. Saka can't. I think once you've had as many seasons in the league as Saka, you shouldn't even be looked at as a young player. Like,
I agree. I think young player should be like I think it should be called breakout or something like that. You can't be young player for like 5 seasons, mate.
I think you should have a maximum 2 seasons where you can be in that category because otherwise it's crazy. But yeah, I get why he's there. Foden, Watkins, Salah, Rice, Palmer have been better. They're better than Foden. Watkins and Palmer, I don't think have been better than Foden, in my opinion.
Watkins' output is ridiculous, by the way. I'm not saying that he has been better than Foden, but his output has been ridiculous for a player that plays for Aston Villa.
This is, I think, the plan was score 2 in the first half and slow down in the second. Listen, 110% Emmanuel. That was the game plan. Rodri is the best in the world since last season. # Ballon d'Or. I'd like to see someone that's not an attacker win the Ballon d'Or again. It'd be nice. I wouldn't like a City player to win it, though. I'm listening with a slight gap, and you said there's a big chance that Sheffield United win tomorrow. I must have. If I've said that or somebody said that, that's got to be a slip of the tongue. No one means that. So apologies if you saw that. Big up to your dog. I'm a dog lover too. I don't think about my dog, but yes, big up Rocky. He's great. It's lovely.
I did want to say one point about that really quickly. About Liverpool. So you said Liverpool title favourites, right, Terry? Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but is this the first time this season, after the Arsenal City game on Sunday, that you've officially said that you believe Liverpool title favourites?
No, he's been saying it for a long time.
I said it for about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I based it, funnily enough. They had the 5-point gap at the time, but it was also the way they weren't always playing that well, but they just kept on winning. And I said, I'm almost disregarding the idea that their little weaknesses are going to hurt them because it had gone on too long without it hurting them, really. And yeah, so that's why I put them there.
But because I'm just sitting there thinking, like, even when City and Liverpool were fighting for titles all those years, apart from the season they won it in the COVID year where City did not even turn up to play football, every single season, Liverpool have always been chasing City. They've always been on their coattails. They've never been the favourite. And I feel like this is the first time where we've got to April, and rather than Liverpool chasing City, it's now Liverpool out in front. Now Liverpool are the favourites. And it's our City's turn to chase them down and overtake them. Yeah. So no one that'll play a psychological factor on them because Liverpool have been so used to chasing City all those years.
There's such a dynamic to it. And Kloppenheimer puts in a really interesting super chat saying, Terry, none of these 3 teams are playing at their highest level. The title race is amazing, but the winner won't be the best ever. I didn't say that the winner would be the best ever. I said one of Arsenal's best ever. So let's be very clear of what I said. I said one of Arsenal's best ever, based on the context of the race.
Oh, yeah. You're right. Yeah, they'll be one of Arsenal's best ever.
Yeah, that's what I said. That's what I was talking about it from an Arsenal point of view. But also, it has to elevate it as Arsenal's a really big achievement for Arsenal based on who it's against. But when you say Centurions and Liverpool 99 and the treble winning teams, this is what I will factor into this, though. And I think points totals and the Invincibles are going unbeaten. It is a barometer to measure success. The treble winning team are better than all of those sides, though, because the more trophies you win, the better. But the reason why the points total thing, I think points totals are a barometer, but they're not something to completely hang your hat on, because your points totals are also dictated by how good your opponents are. So in the sort of Centurion season and the 99 season, if there had been a third team in that race that, by the way, was able to take 5 points off of both of you, suddenly that'd have been 95 points and it would have been 94 points, which had been done before. So it wouldn't have been just Arsenal being at this level back then, based on what we're seeing now, like theoretically could have taken some points off you. You then throw in 2 or 3 other teams like Aston Villa this year that have been at a much higher level than a lot of the other teams that were in 3rd, 4th, and 5th that season. It changes it. So I get points totals are a big thing and they should be celebrated. I'm not disregarding them. So I know it's hard for people in the comments sometimes. I don't think you should disregard them, but you have to factor in who you're up against at the same time when it comes to winning points. Because I'll give you an example. When Leicester won the league, it was historic and it needs to be celebrated. But would Leicester have done that if this Arsenal, just this season, this Arsenal, this Chelsea, and this Liverpool, this City and this Liverpool team were in the league that year? Would Leicester have won the league? In my opinion, no. Doesn't mean they weren't champions, but you have to factor in who you're up against as well, which is why when it comes to greatest teams of all time, even when it comes to the greatest sides of it ever, you have to sometimes weigh up. It's why I look at Man United's 99 team as so brilliant, because there were some excellent teams in the Premier League at that point, including a brilliant Arsenal team that I just won a double. Also, we were up against Europeans, 3 or 4 attack. I can see V's face. V, don't disrespect the quality and the depth in European football in the 90s. There's not.
I'm not.
But what I'm saying is the Italian teams were amazing. The Spanish teams are always strong. The point I'm making is that you have to. It isn't just about points totals. I'm saying you include them, but you have to look at the quality of opponent as well.
Okay, Terry, couldn't you argue, right, that it would be up there with, even City's better title wins? Because if you look at it, right, they're saying that, this ain't their best squad. They've lost the likes of Mahrez. They've lost the likes of Gundogan. This is a weakened City team. And they beat, one of Jurgen Klopp's good teams, a solid Arsenal team, to a league, right? Where the league in general this season seems to be a lot stronger than previous years as well. So you could argue even from that perspective.
It's a great argument. It's a great argument. And yeah, exactly.
It's impressive exactly. To win it with a weakened squad in transition with the likes of Mateus Nunes and all these players who are not yet up to scratch.
Well, you could say weaker squad, or look at the other way. Would it be, and I don't know Pep's entire history, would it be the first time Pep's won a genuine 3-horse race? Because Spain's pretty much 2 teams. Maybe, yeah. I don't know what Atti were doing when he was there. That's why my knowledge isn't there on that.
Probably.
In Germany, he definitely was never in a 3-horse race. Do you know what I'm saying, right? So I think there are different factors that kind of go into this. And you guys might only realize this at the end of the season, when it's all, because it's now going to get real. And it's a bit like this. What wins feel better? 4-0 comfortable wins, or when you win it with that the good performance and that last minute dagger?
Yeah, a last minute is the emotions there because it's so you're on the edge.
Yeah, but when it comes to your team's best title, surely how you feel about it as a fan is so important. So if this goes down to the wire between all 3 of you on the final day, I'm not going to say which way it goes. The one that, say one of you wins it on that final day and it changes 3 or 4 times, I can't tell you how it's going to feel for you. I can't tell you how it's going to feel for you because it's your club. I can have an opinion on how exciting it was, but I can't have an opinion on how big a win it is. Only you can. But there is a possibility that may feel better to some Arsenal fans, some City fans, some Liverpool fans than other previous titles due to everything surrounding it. I don't see why that's such an obscure view.
It's like winning the Champions League, right? If you were to win it coming up against, if you were to beat, like last season when you beat Real, you beat Bayern, right? That's an impressive run to the Champions League final, right? It's not like you were on the other side where Inter Milan were and you played Benfica and the weaker side of the bracket.
Yeah, the weaker side, yeah.
Right, exactly. It means a lot more, right? So if you come up against better sides, it holds more weight to you as a fan, as opposed to if we played Porto and then we played Dortmund and then we play another weakened team, right, and got to the final, of course, as fans, we're going to celebrate it and it's still going to be a great achievement. However, it wouldn't mean as much as if you beat the likes of City, Bayern, Real.
Listen, no, all right, I'm gonna speak for my club, all right? And I've been saying this. I don't want the easy road. Terry, you've had many content creators on your channel. You've heard them say, give me the easiest draw possible. I just want to get to the final. That's not how I am. That's not how I've been. I want us to have the best in front of us, because then I truly know what my club's made of. Then I truly know what my club is capable of. And when we talk about the emotions, to your point, when you beat those stronger teams, the emotion's higher. The confidence in your club's higher. The praise that you have for them is higher. I've said this on a few channels. No one talks about David beating George. No one talks about David beating Jimmy. They talk about David beating Goliath. So I want the Goliath. I want the fights. I want that, because that's what you get paid for.
I agree. So my point is, I think it is a plausible point to make that if you're up against this season 2 Goliaths in Arsenal and Liverpool toe to toe until the final day, it is plausible to say that if you win it, it's a better achievement or a bigger achievement than winning with 100 points at a canter when there was no one challenging you. So I'm not saying that it dismisses the 100-point season. That's still an amazing achievement. I'm just stating that, like, based on your logic there, if you go up against 2 Goliaths toe to toe until the end, you might win it on 92 points. But you may look at that as a better achievement, less points, but you beat 2 juggernauts based on your own logic that you want to go up against the best to that title. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. And I was speaking with regards to our route with regards to Champions League. But when it comes down to the league play, right? When it comes down to the league, obviously, whoever wins the league, you're the best team, period. And the reason why I kind of shake my head, I poo-poo on some of the comments with regards to the Centurions, and I get it. How it's branded Centurions, we scored 100 points. But I'm speaking of that club, we were so dominant of everybody that regardless of someone else being at the level to challenge, we were so dominant, period.
But let's go back to your Champions League point. If there's barely any teams that are at your level and you beat them all and win the Champions League, that's great. But you've just said that what you really want is you want to go up against the best of the best teams, because winning it makes you feel more. So if you're so dominant over the Premier League, because that season, let's be honest, you were amazing, but there was no one else in that Premier League that season. But Liverpool started to that really and truly were that good. Liverpool from January to the end of the season started to kick on. They did well in the Champions League, but the beginning of the season weren't very good. So I'm just trying to understand your logic here, where you want to go up against the best, but at the same time, you're celebrating your dominance. But when you were that dominant in the league, there was no one challenging you. But if you want to be challenged to the end, surely this season would feel better.
Yeah, but Terry, right after that, the very next season, we did the domestic treble against a very, very good Liverpool team. They kicked on in Champions League.
Which I've said is a better achievement than the Centurions. I said it at the time. Much better. Because you were in a title race and you won 3 trophies. It's better than 100 points. But you got 99 points.
Partner, right? In fighting, right? Whoever you, if we look at this as simple, like if we break it down simply, yeah, if you're a fighter, the people you beat makes your career, it elevates your career a lot more, right? So if you're a heavyweight champion, then you're beating unrecognized fighters, or you're in a heavyweight division where there's not as good heavyweights and you win that belt. It's not as iconic, right, as going against some of the greats in the game and beating the greats continuously, right? And if anyone's like a UFC fan, like a John Jones, who went through some of the best UFC fighters in the light heavyweight division and cleared out that division, that resume speaks higher to another champion who might have fought lesser fighters and won that belt, right? And that is why
I agree completely, and it's why, for instance, with my train of thought just completely went there and I was on something, but I completely agree with your point there. Who you go up against is a huge part in your legacy. That if you're a heavyweight boxer and you've beaten 10 title defenses, but you're fighting cream puffs, we don't really know how good you are when it comes to talking about legends, because you've not gone up against the Klitschko's were a little bit like that. They didn't really fight a lot of class, and everyone they come up against that was considered class, they invariably lost to, as an example, which is why their legacy will never be like a Lennox Lewis, even though they were champions for years. Boys, I have got to shoot because it's getting very, very late. And this here says, hearing V compare himself to David is a scenario is laughable. You're not David, definitely not. You're Goliath, but I hear you. Give City the 6 points they won off Arsenal
Goliath up against Bayern Munich. Sorry, Terry. I'm Goliath up against Bayern Munich and Real Madrid in last year's Champions League. Come on, guys. Come on.
Yeah, but what they're
You're not-
saying
you're
is
less
that
position, man.
but you haven't been David. You haven't been David for you. But we get your point.
Okay.
This is says give City the 6 points they won off Arsenal last season. They'd have more points after 29 games this season. Arsenal just have just been more competitive in their head-to-heads. This is also again. This is what's also true about it. And
'Cause
this is
we've
why,
got
what I was
8
going to say. This
points
is why as well.
up.
Who you're up against matters, not the points. More, in my opinion.
But also
Between sort of 2004 and 2011, most seasons, all 4 English teams in the Champions League could win it. Most of those seasons, there was a couple of anomalies, but in most of those seasons, all 4 of our teams had great chances of winning the Champions League, where everybody went, it's not a bad bet. We haven't had that in England since then. When you're saying no, what do you mean?
So just a season ago, when Tuchel was still in the league, and obviously they got bounced out by Real Madrid, we had Liverpool, City, and Chelsea.
Yes.
We were very dominant.
At the start of the season, we thought that. By the end of December, Tuchel and Chelsea were at the title race, and then they faded away completely. And from that point, they collapsed. So that was a flash in the pan moment. What we're looking back on is here from when Arsenal got to that final in 2000. Sorry, from when Liverpool got to that final in 2005, right through until 2011, the English teams every year in that at the beginning of the season, right through to the end, were looked at as good opportunity. Plus, all of us were the top 4 consistently in the Premier League. That's when the football in England was at its best. When you had 4 teams most years that you went, one of those 4 could win the Champions League. Invariably, at the start of every season for the past 8 years, we've said City or City and Liverpool are the only teams genuinely, barring that 1 year of Chelsea, where we've said, they're the only teams we've picked out of the top 4 that could go and win it. Every other time, we've laughed at the idea of Spurs, Chelsea, Arsenal, or Man United being able to win it. That's when, for me, when you talk, and I'm going to go by your logic, V. When it's Goliath versus Goliath, that's what we went through in that era, and that's what I hope the Premier League gets back to. But when you've got 4 teams of that level, everybody gets even less points. So that's why the points total is important, but it's not the overarching barometer that I think makes the best teams in the world.
But also,
No,
I just want to step back at that really quickly.
Sorry, there's been tournaments where English teams have knocked themselves out, and obviously we all laughed at when it was a final with Liverpool and Spurs. But that is also, I hear you, not as consistently, but there's been spells where it's been 3 English teams.
I hear you, but the point I would make about that is this: at the beginning of that season, did everybody say that Spurs could get to a final?
No, of course
no. So at the beginning of the next season, I don't even know if they qualify for the Champions League, but did anybody think Spurs would win it the next year?
No,
but no one's ever going to think that.
No, but exactly. But the point I'm making is in that era of the Premier League, you did not get laughed at the start of the season for saying Liverpool, United, City, or Chelsea could win the league. You were never laughed at. So that because all 4 were really good. Now, one of the 4 always fell out the title race, but it was still a very good team, typically speaking. And that's why when I look at points totals, I think the argument's flawed because we haven't had that level of depth. And I'm only going by your own logic, V, of Goliath versus Goliath.
If we look at the top 4 as it stands right now, would you think that you would have confidence in saying this current top 4 could have European success next year?
There's no way I think any of us are going to believe next season that Villa or Spurs are going to win the no one. I don't think that will be there just yet. Now, if they go and have very good Champions League campaigns and have equally good, if not better, league campaigns again, and they both qualify again for the Champions League, then you start to move into that realm. But what we've had in the past, I would say 10, 12 years, it's all been peaks and troughs. This one team's, you get Liverpool make it into the United get in Champions League, then they don't. Spurs get in and don't. And then you get like a Villa or a Leicester look like they're going to break into that and they fall away. There's not been the consistency from the top. There's been a consistency from 2 teams. And that's Liverpool and City.
About Arsenal this season, though, because we're still favourites to win the Champions League, but we've only been in it.
I'm going to drop, but thanks for having me on.
Okay, bro, but in with Arsenal, if you say to anyone now Arsenal could win the Champions League, most rivals laugh. Now, back in that quality Wenger period, no one laughed at the idea of Arsenal being able to win it. Now, that's a little bit of banter in there, but that's because you've only been consistent in the league for nearly 2 years. It takes time to build up that consistency. If you guys keep doing what you're doing and getting better in Europe, in 2 or 3 years' time, predicting Arsenal to win the league is not going to be laughed at. Champions League won't be laughed at. But boys, look, I appreciate you all coming on. Really, really good debate on that, guys. Viewers, please make sure you hit the like button. Please make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you all again very, very soon.